Bora Boye. I don't have a lot of time, but let's play a game real quick. It's called Name That Tune. Boom, dang, dang, da 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 da. Boom, dang, boom, dang, bang, ka dang, ka da ka boom, dang, 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 ka dang, ka da ka dong, bang, dang, 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 ka dang, ka da ka dong, bang, bang, dang, bang, ba dong, ka da ka. If you don't know that tune, then we're gonna have to examine your card and see about some real swift orientation and negotiate your membership in the club, okay? That's none other than Stevie Wonder. And you know the track is Superstition. Great song. Stevie Wonder takes you through all these different, superstitions that are well known. And he grounds everything in his hook that says, when you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition ain't the way, right? Great, great track. And it's pertinent to us within Orisa lifestyle because for whatever reason, superstition has taken the place of spiritual development. It's totally eclipsed the idea of spiritual mastery in the majority of our community, and it's so prolific that everywhere you're being told that no matter what problem you have, no matter what has been ailing you, no matter what kind of dark cloud is hanging over your head, all you need to do is sprinkle something on a rock, and you're going to be able to connect with the Orisha, which is superstition. Basically, that's just superstition. That's not the way Orisha lifestyle functions. No way. Nowhere. Not in Brazil. Not in Haiti. Not in Trinidad. Not in West Africa. Not nowhere. Okay? You can't just go get stuff and start sprinkling it on Orisha randomly and then make this magical connection to the divinities, and then they're just going to do what you want them to do. That's superstition. And it does lead to suffering. It does lead to sorrow. It does lead to bitterness and disappointment. All right. So I want you to just abandon that idea. And if that's your practice, I want you to chuck it. Simple as that. I want you to just toss that out the window because it doesn't work. Okay. It does not work. And then when I say it doesn't work, what I mean is that not that it doesn't get results, but it does not promote self mastery. It does not promote spiritual development. It will not help you to become the master of your destiny. All right. Now, this is the School of Orisa Studies, and I am your instructor, Obafemi Origunwa. Today's lesson is about the relationship between training, devotion, and spiritual mastery. Okay, and spiritual mastery that leads to the realization of your destiny. All right, spiritual mastery must end in the realization of your destiny. Now, within our tradition, we operate under the premise of mentorship. Okay, you have a mentor, you have a master who takes you through a process. That's the way it works. That's the way it always has worked. And it takes time. It takes time, and it takes time for a very specific reason. And that reason is learning is a transformative process. When you really learn something, it's not just that you got this data and you've memorized it. Learning isn't just that you can do this, move your body like this. That isn't really learning. I mean, that's a dimension of learning. Let me say it that way. But that's not the purpose of learning. That's not true learning. Learning is about mastery. Learning is about transformation. You change when you really learn something. You change. Okay, you are, and what you learn is going to dictate a lot of what you become. And so this is why systems become so important, because they are like recipes. People have done it for tens of thousands, if not millions of years, and they know, generally speaking, what the outcome is going to be. It doesn't totally invalidate other things, but there's a much higher likelihood that if you follow a recipe, that you're going to actually get the desired outcome. In this case, the realization of your destiny. Orisha lifestyle is only concerned with that, right? And our system is built on apprenticeship, right? Now, the apprenticeship kind of takes you through three distinct phases of learning and transformation. At the most basic level, you just got raw experience. This could be a raw sensory experience, something in your body, right? Your five senses just go off, bang, or something emotional. You get this huge emotional outpour. right? It could be anger, it could be fear, it could be sorrow, it could be love, just something strong happens emotionally. It could be something real powerful intellectual, right? Your mind just gets ignited, right? When you get in contact with certain things or you have certain experiences, your mind just starts to work, starts to race. Okay? These are indicators most times of your natural gifts and talents. When you come into contact with the situations or the people or the conditions wherein your natural gifts and talents are meant to be focused and meant to be engaged, you're going to have a response to it. Other people won't have a response at all. Right? But here you are, your mind is like, lit up like a second sun, and everybody else is oblivious, right? Because that's where your natural gifts and talents are being invited to start. That's raw. That's the first stage. You don't know why it happens. You don't actually know what's happening. You just know that something happened. The second phase is where you start to learn the mechanics, and that phase of learning is usually real rigid. It's mechanical, and you're really just trying to focus on the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? It's real stiff. And then the third phase is where it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it anymore. You just know what to do, right? The mechanics of it it's just natural to you, and you can do it, pretty much effortlessly. All right. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, so you can understand how all this can lead towards self mastery. Let's take a simple procedure like Obi, right? You need to be formally introduced to Obi, right? And when someone formally introduces you to Obi, they're going to give you a consistent set of signatures. These are the 5 signatures, and this is what these signatures mean. This is what you do when you see this signature. This is what you say when you see this signature. This is how you interpret this particular signature. And all of those things are consistent. This is where your mentorship comes in, if you got proper mentorship anyway. What some people have is they've got people who have layered in 2 or 3 different kinds of systems of OB divination, and they're telling you something that relates to astrology and something that relates to Greek mythology and something that has to do with numerology, and all of those things, although they might give you insights, they point in different directions. They're drawing from different kinds of logic that are not consistent with one another. Okay? So having a consistent starting point for something like Obi, for example, is crucial. And this is where your mentor comes in. Because then you're going to be able to go to the next level of, you throw your Obi and you notice that you have some kind of a physiological reaction. Yeah, I throw that Obi and I broke out and I had a little hot flash, And I don't, what I'm saying? And the first thing that you notice is just that you have this physiological response to throwing this Obi, but you don't know why, right? You just distracted by the fact that it happened. When you go into the second phase, you may notice that you had the hot flash when you throw the Obi, and you're trying to figure out what signature it is, right? By the time you move to the third phase, you throw the Obi, you have the hot flash, you easily recognize the signature, you know what to say, you know what to do, and that opens you up to now be able to draw a connection between that particular signature and what it means and where it's pointing you. In an instant, right? It took me longer to say it than you would experience it. Boom, you throw the Obi, and while you're doing these different gestures, you already know this is where Orisa is pointing. This is speaking directly to that particular dimension of my experience or my question or my concern. I understand what this means now. I have a value for it because I've experienced it, and I am deep enough in the experience to not have to think about the different parts. I'm not distracted by the different phases of comprehension or perception. I'm just able to let that energy flow and point me straight into the direction, right? Now, when I go to choose my offerings, my offerings are going to match more closely the true intention. So now while I'm making my offerings, I'm making my offerings based on this true connection, right? It's a very, very precise, deep spiritual science that is based on an experience. I hesitate to call it a science as such because I think that keeps us a little bit limited into a certain, mechanical cause and effect kind of thing, where people are under this impression that, like, if you just sprinkle this on Oshun, then this is what's going to happen, and that's not the case. It's just not the case, or it's not the case all the time. It's not that mechanical. If you give Oshun this, then this will be the outcome. No, you got to be able to read what Oshun is telling you based on, several variables. And to be able to do that, you've got to have a certain level of mastery, right? That level of mastery takes time to cultivate. And as you cultivate, you're going from one, step two, step three, there are different things that are happening when you have someone to actually walk you through that process. All right. So there's a great book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you don't have it, you should get it. It's a magnificent book. It talks about this from a different perspective. But Malcolm Gladwell, and this is based on other research. He didn't do the original research, but he, packages it up real nicely in a way that you can understand. He basically lays out what they call the 10,000 hour rule. All right, the 10,000 hour rule basically, and for my math people out there who are very particular, you can do the math, you can do the calculation on how this ends up being about 10 years, how many hours a day, how many days a week. I've already seen it, so you guys can go through that process though, because I know you're out there. But you got 10,000 hours roughly boils down to about 10 years of a particular kind of practice. It's not enough that you've been exposed to Orisa lifestyle for 10 years or that you've been initiated for 10 years. There's a particular kind of practice that goes into this form of self-mastery. One of the dimensions of the practice is that you're doing a very deliberate practice. Okay? It's a very deliberate practice. It's very purposeful. And that's where I was talking about with the obi. Your obi, it needs to be very consistent, right? Because if you got this willy-nilly hodgepodge obi process, you're going to interrupt that flow of energy, all right? And you're going to end up with something slightly different. So that's the first phase. The second phase is, in that deliberate practice, you need some specific kinds of feedback. Your mentor needs to be aware of where you're going. They need to be aware of the terrain. And they need to be able to give you certain assignments in that process, and also listen to what you picked up in that process. Okay? So when I am working with people and I'm asking you certain questions, I'm listening for certain things. On one hand, I'm listening to see or to hear what you picked up on. What did you notice? So I have one student, and that student may tell me, when I throw my obi, I feel something in my body. Really? Okay. And I'm going to listen to the fullness of how much awareness they have about this physiological sensation that they had in their body. I'm also going to notice what they did not tell me. And I'm going to ask them, well, when you had this experience, did you happen to notice this? And they may say, oh yeah, I did notice that. That's important, right? So now I'm helping them to broaden and fill out their connection, right? Or they may say, no, I didn't notice that at all. All right, that's something for you to take note of, because I know that was there. For example, I know that in addition to having a physiological experience, there was an emotional level. I know there was an intellectual level, right? So I'm pointing them. Did you notice what you were thinking? Did you notice what you smelled? Did you notice, right? So I'm drawing different things out in that whole process. Okay. And in that, again, all of this, if you do it properly, is going to help you move deeper and deeper towards not only mastery of the mechanics, not only mastery of the procedure and the technique, but also mastery of yourself in that process. So as you do it over and over and over and over, you're filling in the picture with more and more and more detail. It's the same way we go through dreams. I do the same thing when I work with people in dream work. The point of departure could almost be anywhere, We could be doing divination. We could be doing dreams. We could be doing the exploration of different stories and verses of Ifa. We could be singing. The point of departure is only part of the process. It is the process itself, and understanding where the process is leading, where the process is leading us, that makes the mentorship most valuable to you. And in that process, when I say the process, I'm talking about your daily devotion, right? Observing your calendar, doing your ijuba, reciting your oriki, throwing your obi, making your offerings. Those repetitious, practices, that's the process. All right, that's the process. And all of it is in sync. All of it is consistent. All of it points to one thing, which is helping you to, ascend the throne of your own destiny. It has absolutely nothing to do with superstition. It has everything to do with the process of transformation that takes time, and it takes deliberate, very, very purposeful dedication of your time. So I want you to take that into consideration. And, I'm looking for people who want to master their destiny. I'm looking for people who really want to come out of this experience transformed. I'm looking for people for whom it's not enough just to have the outward trappings of the practice and the tradition, but really want to know the connection from the inside out. They that there's something happening, and that something is connecting you to something bigger than yourself, and you really want to make that connection, deliberately. You want to make that connection at will, and you want to do it in the proper way. Those are the people that I'm looking for. I want you to check it out. Go to orishalifestyle.com, go to obafemio.com, look at what I'm offering, get involved in the School of Orisa Studies. That's your ground zero for beginning the journey of self-mastery. Aboru aboye, aboshishem.